Yeah, I mean, if they don't, then that's kind of it's only good against one deck, right? And so if you don't get matched up against that one, you're paying 2 mana to draw a card. Not exactly the best. You're better off with tracking at that point. So we'll see what ends up happening here. We have Kucha and Lothar both playing Paladin. We'll see who's where as far as the positioning. Lothar with an amazing hat, by the way. I can't believe I didn't comment on it, but he looks like a Russian gentleman.
Yeah, exactly. He was sitting there, and did you see him do the flex after his last win? He got a little bit of some showmanship in there after his win, and then right before this match started, he got up and ran across the room with like a determined look on his face. And I just noticed in his head, he's just like, I need a hat. I need this awesome hat on stream. He probably bought it just for this.
Can't win without cosplay. It's impossible.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he bought this just for this event to like wear it on stream.
Alright, so Kucha is going to be playing as the first player. He's got his second consecration picked up. 1 is great because it guarantees a removal against a big board, but 2, maybe not. I think Kucha might actually be the player at the top because there's a Sludge Belch in that deck.
Yeah, I think that is actually, it's possible that Kucha is at the top. We'll get this confirmed in just a minute. But yeah, because we didn't see Sludge Belcher out of Lothar earlier. I almost said Lothar again there because it's in his hand as well. These names are a little too similar here, but with the builds that we've seen from these two guys, how do you like this matchup for each of them? You know, Lothar has maybe a little bit more top end in his version since he has Dr. Boom, but Kucha has some weird stuff in there too. Like he had a Sludge Belcher, you know, in a Lothar.
Yeah, they both play a lot of top end, I feel, and that's the way they seem to like this version. I know that RDU was playing a very top end version, which is probably maybe what Lothar discussed with him. There's a good chance that that's where that came from. So it's really like, it doesn't really surprise me in any way. Oh man, you got a good start, Kucha. Double mini, but I thought the double concept was gonna be bad, but it's gonna give you like back-to-back board clears to maintain tempo.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty good. I mean, 1 consecration is just great against Paladin. You always want 1 at least during the games, so you can keep up with them if they do make this big wide board, muster for battle and stuff. But we thought that it was gonna be bad since he had 2 of them, but this hand it's gonna be able to push a ton of damage, and I love using the Secret Keeper this way.
Alright, well, that Blessing of Kings should be a bit of a problem for Kucha to handle, to be honest. I mean, he can play Muster here, which is sweet. Do you even play that, or do you go for a Shredder? I mean, Muster is on curve, and that's great. You can keep the coin for Belcher or Lothar follow-up.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a hard game for him because he has to worry about what's going to happen from Lothar next turn. If he musters, Lothar's got 4 mana, and Consecration, he's still pretty far behind. If he just plays 1 minion here and Lothar plays a Blessing of Kings on his Divine Shield minion and runs it over, or just pushes for a ton of damage because it's hard to deal with. Kucha again is super far behind, so he's got to figure out how he's going to play the rest of the game from this turn right here. This might be the most important turn.
Yeah, and the double consecration. So Lothar is the one who's actually playing at the bottom, by the way. I think everything was fixed up. So it turns out Lothar with the double consecration. I mean, it looked pretty bad, and it would be in most cases. With Paladin, is probably one of the few classes, especially now where you want to have double consec. It's just that without equality in the deck, it doesn't do as much as you might like it. Alright, the competitive spirit play, so it's forcing Lothar to trade or to wipe the board, and that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, this consecration is going to come in and take care of everything here. Divine Favor might actually not be terrible against Kucha's deck since he has so much top end in it that he might be able to get some value out of it at some point. But yeah, do you think there's ever a chance he doesn't consecration this turn?
I don't know. It's pretty costly here, right? It's a very, very costly. Like his hand is very expensive. Everything is like 4 mana plus. So getting rid of those cards first is gonna be an issue. Maybe even more so than getting the Divine Favor to be good.
Yeah, I am super surprised he doesn't consecration here because of something like competitive spirit. But maybe he's got something else in mind here. But this allows Kucha to get back into this game if he wants to. He could have just consecrationed here, left him with the secret that's not doing much, and just still use Blessing of Kings maybe next turn.
I mean, I thought the consecration was going to be something he wants to do, but here's the deal. Consecration still kills the minions as 2/2s, right? And there's a chance that they just end up trading on your shielded minibot, and that means that the shielded minibot doesn't die to his consecration. So you're not just going to be trading consecrations, because if you play yours first and he plays his second, you don't have a minion to play. So you probably are the bigger loser in that trade.
Okay.
That might have been the trade. I'm trying to figure out why that was, and I think that would be it. If he had another minion in his hand, he might have just gone for the consec.
Yeah, he's going to Divine Favor for 2 cards here. Probably not going to get a better one in this game. Plus, he could pick up a secret, which he did, and it gives him something to do with all of his mana here this turn. He's going to be flooded with 4 drops in his hand here.
Alright, so Redemption and Avenge together. Alright, so apparently the overlay's right. Alright, so Lothar is at the top and Kucha's at the bottom. That sounds perfect.
A little easier on us now.
Yeah, it's a little difficult sometimes when they play a mirror match and it's not all, you know, it's not always upside down. You rely on the highlights to work. Anyway, so Lothar had a pretty okay play with the Blessing of Kings, and I think it was a great play overall. Now that I think about the possible follow-ups, but what does he do now? Like, you have to let your opponent kill your stuff to trigger Redemption and Avenge.
Yeah, I mean,
you just attack. Do you just equip the weapon and attack the Belcher and try to set up a consec?
I think that's probably the best play he has and really the only one, because if you attack the Belcher here, then there's a chance he just trades the Belcher into the 2/2, and then you get to use the weapon plus a Consecration to kind of hopefully clean up the Piloted Shredder next turn. And he's going to put the Knife Juggler into play too. These secrets are going to get him some value off of Knife Juggler here, so he's going to set up a board. He's trying to set up a board where Consecration gives him some value here, because he's got, you know, 2 in his hand, and he needs to have them do something in this game. And that was like one of the only reasons I really wanted him to Consecration the Muster for Battle earlier. Is he gonna find a better spot for it? That's the problem. You know.
Well, we've seen double consec earlier, so I mean, there's always a turn 8 double Consecration play that can be done. Doesn't mean it's gonna work very well, but it can always be done as a last resort.
Yeah, well, like, what are your expectations on doing that on turn 8? That you just get to kill multiple 4/4s? You know, like, he's going to be playing, like, a Mysterious Challenger or, like, a Lothar. I don't know if he's probably gotten some scouting of this deck and knows that double Consecration might not be great on that turn. So, not sure if I, like, love it from Lothar, but, I mean, I see where he was going with it, and it's not a terrible play at all. And, wow.
That's a Snow Chugger. Yeah, that has no business being here.
And it could be pretty good in this matchup. Yeah, getting to freeze them if they have weapons and keep them from ever using them. I mean, look, he's got a weapon now, and he's got a Muster for Battle. He's not going to be able to use this weapon.
Yeah, I mean, he could Consecrate now and try to just trigger all the secrets in the world, but well, how do you deal with the 6/6 afterwards, right? Like, you have to play it now and try to trigger Redemption and Avenge and hope the Snow Chugger is killable with your weapon right away. The Noble Sack's still there.
Yeah, this is going to be a really, really bad spot for Lothar. I mean, he's going to get to take care of the 6/4. Well, never mind, the Sludge.
No, he can't. There's no way. He can't do anything. That was it. The secret spam from the Mysterious Challenger sealed the game right there. And yeah, I mean, what can you say? So Kucha ends up winning with the Paladin list that he brought, which again, you know, they're kind of similar to that of Nihilum. It seems like the whole mid-range approach is working out for them.
Yeah, I mean, the more I see this, the more I like this. I said I didn't like the original versions of this deck where it just seemed so super all in on secrets, like Secret Keeper and some 1/1s and some 2/2s, and hopefully it all gets there. And sometimes you don't draw everything correctly, you're just going to lose. But his deck seems to have a lot more staying power. You know, a lot more of these mid-range to top-end threats, and I'm actually interested to play this deck. It looks great.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot, of course. There's a lot of spins you can make on it. I guess customize it if you want to put more cool stuff like Blood Knights. I mean, it's always doable. The Lothar still has to win with his Paladin deck, and Kucha's got the Hunter, and he's got the Warrior, which makes Lothar's, I guess, fight a little tougher already, right? Like, you've already narrowed it down to where you're bound to face Patron at some point, and you have to win with your Paladin deck.
Yeah, and that seems to be like one of the hardest things people are having to do right now is to get through with these Paladin decks. You know, everyone's playing them, but then that means everyone's going to be playing Grim Patron and try to farm. You know, you get these free wins off of it. And in time, you're going to have to if you don't just get the win here early. So that's a good thing for Kucha to get that Paladin win in early and then not have to face something like Grim Patron in this where Lothar might have to go through that. And we've seen that can be very difficult.
Yeah, so Lothar's got a Druid deck that Kucha doesn't have. We've seen how good Druid can be. I mean, they tend to blow out people. I mean, they get good starts, and you really can't stop it. Again, it's one of those things where some people say Druid's favored against Patron. You know, some good Patron players say the opposite. I'm favored against it. Of course, it's all about the execute. Lothar is playing an Ancient of War, so that's always a bit of a roadblock. You have to have the execute for that exact minion, and otherwise, it can sometimes stop an OTK coming from the Patron Warrior.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who you're talking to. Again, this is one of those spots. Patron players, they think they're favored in practically every matchup, especially the really good ones, and it's hard to say they're not. I mean, their deck is so good and so powerful. Now, with Kucher being up a game in this matchup, do you think he has like really good matchups with the decks that are left over, or do you think it's just that Lothar has bad matchups with these? Do you think it's going to be hard for Lothar to come back?
I don't think he's got an awful matchup. So Kucha can be playing Paladin here. That makes no sense at all. That has to be a swap. I think Kucha has to be the Warrior, and Lothar is the Paladin player.
Yeah, I mean we've had this a few times where it's the opening hands they just switch back and forth at the beginning.
So if Lothar is going for his Paladin again, then he's just trying to brute force a win eventually.
Yeah, this is what I was going to talk about. If I were Kucha, I would definitely queue up Grim Patron here, because what we've seen from a lot of the players here today is they just queue up the deck immediately again when they lose with it, and you can just get maybe a free win out of this Grim Patron here against Paladin, because wow, is this a good matchup for you in a lot of ways? I mean, it's just rough for the Paladin deck. They need to draw very, very well to be able to outpace Warrior.
I mean, that's not a bad draw. You've got a Blessing of Kings, you got the Muster. You still have to pray every single time they don't have the Whirlwind. And again, that's not very reasonable, right? Like, you can't just expect them to not have a single AoE.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, just, praying for it is one thing. Having it actually work for you is another thing, and it almost never works. We talked about this, like, trying to construct a 4 or 5 card hand that the Paladin deck is actually a big favorite against, and it's really hard. It involves, them having all of their minions in their urban hand and then none of them being Unstable Ghoul. Because, like, Unstable Ghoul is just a nightmare for this deck. All the Whirlwinds are a nightmare for this deck. But, is Unstable Ghoul even... Unstable Ghoul is pretty decent on this board against Lothar as well. Lothar did put out the Knife Juggler early to add some pressure. Do you ever put a damage on this Knife Juggler here and put 3 damage on your Shield Maiden? It's going to... I'm sorry, not your Shield Maiden, your Armor Smith. It's going to make a problem for you to play the Unstable Ghoul. But
So
do you want to
I
get something
think-
like Acolyte of Pain?
I think the big reason why you might not want to play Unstable is because there's always, like, the coin True Silver that gives him, like, a good 2-for-1. You slow down his tempo, but you're also slowing yours. So Acolyte of Pain would at least let you cycle while losing your board anyway, right? Like, either way, you're playing into True Silver Champion.
Yeah, but this way at least gets you a card. Yeah, I like this play a lot better. Plus, it's a little more mana efficient. You get to save your Unstable Ghoul for your Grim Patron, your Frost Berserker, your
Frothing Berserker, yeah.
Frothing Berserker. I almost said Frost Berserker. Yeah, your Frothing Berserker turn here, and that's going to be a lot better for you in the future.
Lothar could go for Coin Blessing of Kings, or you could just play the 2 secrets you've got, right? There's a few plays that make sense. You could try out the Muster for Battle, although... I guess it puts down, you're forcing the Whirlwind again, right? The same situation we were talking about. You need to take risks because you need to force him to have the answer. If those 3 juggles hit perfectly, that's going to give Lothar a huge edge.
Yeah, it'll make his Knife Juggler
almost.
Yeah, just the tease.
Was that he just curved his head a little bit. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna tilt my head a little bit and maybe get that juggle. Nope, didn't work out.
Body English, try to get it in there, but nope, not gonna get the last one.
One, throw a curved knife at that guy's face. Do it.
This is something you have to do with the Paladin deck in this matchup. Don't you feel like you just have to take a risk at some point in time somewhere and hope it just works out for you?
Yeah, I think it's still a matchup that's winnable, but Divine Shields are a huge chunk of your win rate, just because they're so hard to remove from the Warrior side. So you have to get everything to line up, right? Like Divine Shield with a big buff, Warrior missing the AoE plus Execute. It's like everything just has to work out. It's not realistic, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like your hope is that the Warrior deck doesn't draw cards that are in their deck. You're having to fade such a big percentage of their deck at all times. And I mean, if you draw a lot of your Divine Shield heavy draws, there's a chance for you to win. You can steal a game on the back of Blessing of Kings, but man, is it rough.
This is a pretty scary situation, though, from Kucha, because he doesn't know if this is competitive spirit. He might think this is redemption, in which case killing the juggler forces him to use the Inner Rage. If it turns out to be an Avenge, then he doesn't have a weapon, right?
Right,
So
yeah.
everything is very scary from Kucha's perspective. If it's Repentance, Unstable Ghoul would just die to the weapon. But now he knows what it is, of course, so...
Depending on how the draws work out, I mean, this is one of the games that it's possible for Lothar to win. I mean, you know, he's getting a good board presence here. You know, he's got a Consecration if he wants it this turn. I don't know if he'll set up I mean, not Consecration, I'm sorry, Blessing of Kings if he wants it this turn, and then he can start to really push for a lot of damage, making Kucha have to deal with multiple big threats, and then he's going to get to curve into a Mysterious Challenger. I mean, he's got a good hand for this game.
Yeah, I think the fact that he can Kings now and go for Consecration, Noble Sack next turn, assuming he ever needs to, and into Mysterious Challenger, that gives him a pretty good chance. But of course, a Kucha still could... I mean, Executes would be a huge deal. And now Lothar's considering a trade, but then why feed him the Execute value if he's forced to go fetch it himself?
Yeah, I like just pushing for damage here. If he has Execute, make him just run his minion into yours first, because he's gonna get you're gonna get the minion anyway. So you might as well just get in the 4 or 5 damage as well. That's how you're gonna win this game, is just pushing enough damage early that Kucha's just forced into bad play after bad play.
Yeah,
if he's always playing defensively, then how does he win?
What do you think about like Harrison Jones for 2 cards, Enrage your Gnomish and trade into the 4/3? That withers down a lot of the aggression, and it's probably going to get you a card or 2 that are going to facilitate removal in the future.
Yeah, that's very true. Plus your Harrison Jones is directly threatening the 5/5
right
on the other side of the board. Lothar has to answer that as well. He'll have to like run his token in and use Consecration, and it's like not a great use of his mana because he's going to turn 5, and that means all he gets to do is Consecration plus a secret, which isn't the best thing in the world. For Lothar, it's not the best turn he could possibly have, but I mean, I like your play a lot, but let's see if Kucha
you can
also
go for
agrees with that.
Warsong, Enrage trade that kills a 1/1 as well. There's so many little plays you can make. All right, so he's just going to go for the tempo frothing. Oh man,
We'll have to believe he's gonna get some trading in here. Nope,
he's hoping to get some trading in here, at least.
Yeah, I mean, he can make Lothar do it for him. He doesn't have to use his Enrages here, because he could have like Enraged, the 4/1 here and almost made sure or had a good chance of his Frothing Berserker living through all this. But
True Silver Champion is a huge weakness of this turn, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, but the way that Lothar played this game, do you think he would have True Silvered earlier?
Yeah, that's probably it. He's not representing the weapon, so there's really no point playing around it. Now the big question is, how tempted is Lothar to make the trade? Because it's a lot of damage. Like, most of his damage is gone after this trade, right? So do you just play Noble Sack to tank... Like, Noble Sack could tank the Frothing. That's good for you.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, there's no way that he can use a card to take care... I mean, he can take 9 to the face here and use Consecration, so where he still keeps a threat in play. And Lothar just, I think I like this. Taking 9 to the face is better than just giving up your only threat that's left over. Plus... You get the Mysterious Challenger next turn, so this is like such a big, huge swing. For
the big thing,
here over the next turn.
Yeah, the big thing about this play, I think, is the fact that it's really mana efficient as well. Like we were talking about the turn 4 into turn 5, he had a curve with either Kings or Consec, depending on what he wanted, into turn 6. So the fact that he's been mana efficient with it, and his health is being like he's not threatened to die, right? Like there's no way he just insta dies unless Kucha picks up some crazy whirlwind effect. See, this feels like it's too late. This feels really odd to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, like you should have done this last turn if you're going to make this kind of play. Like I liked your play line last turn with use one of the Enrages and do this for 2 cards and kind of like threaten his minions that way. This the way that Kucha played it allowed Lothar to push for a lot more damage. He still got the 9 in with his Frothing Berserker because of the weapon swing from Lothar, but it's on his terms. It's on Lothar's terms. He got to be the one pushing the action and dictating when. Oh, he picked up an Execute. That's a pretty timely draw for him.
Yeah, what's interesting is that the Warsong Commander and like the Execute, the Warsong, like everything, you have to wait for the secrets to resolve, is what I mean. Like you have to wait for the secrets to go and put the Avenge somewhere, and then you kill whatever needs to die the most, which is probably gonna be the 6/6 if it gets buffed. Well, that's pretty convenient.
Yeah,
that's convenient.
Here this way, he doesn't have to use the Whirlwind if he doesn't want to, because he would have had to have damaged the Mysterious Challenger, plus it picks off the 2/1. But if he's going to play Grim Patron, that might be his plan, is to use Whirlwind here, make an extra Grim Patron, kill the 2/1, and then execute down the 8/6, and Lothar's just left with a 6/6.
Yeah, he might even he's going to go for an extra Patron as well. Using both might be a bit of an overextension into Consec. Because you're filling your board up with 2 health minions as opposed to... I mean, it'll work out in this case, I guess. He's going to have like 3 3/3s, I think. And then that's going to let Lothar have to handle this. Does he have lethal? Lothar is 1 off lethal, right?
Yeah,
Oh, actually, no, he's got it.
Spirit. Yeah, he's got lethal. Yeah.
You're right. I absolutely forgot about this. So Lothar is just gonna pick up the lethal here. Kucha couldn't know it. He played, he played his outs, played well, but ultimately it's not gonna be enough. Secret Paladin actually able to beat Patron. That says something about the deck.
Yeah, I mean, Lothar actually had the draw this game. We were talking about, your normal draws versus normal draws in this deck. You got to feel Patron is a pretty big favorite, but we saw maybe some interesting turns there from Kucha as well. But Lothar played this game great. Presented him with multiple different threats, so execute was never really just a single out. There, he had a 4-3 and a 5-5, and that's how you want to be playing it in this matchup. If you just make a bunch of 1-1s, it's very easy for them.
Yeah, spread the buffs. If you get buffs, spread them, right? Like, that's the rule number one. Also, we have to say something. No weapons really makes this rough, because once the Avengers trigger, if you don't have Fire War Axe, you can't even kill a 1-1, right? What are you going to do? You don't play Bash in your Patron Warrior, so it makes everything a little bit more awkward. And it's really important for you as the Patron player against Paladin to be able to use your weapon to kill those minions that don't have Divine Shield anymore.
Now we get another Patron Mirror. We've seen some awesome Patron Mirrors so far here today. If you're a fan of these decks and how the play goes back and forth, today's been a good day. We've seen people make huge Patron boards and then still lose.
Yeah, we saw Lothar earlier, I think, against Firebat. That was a crazy game. I thought initially, Lothar has this game, right? It was his. He got the Patron Inner Rage, Death Spite Dream on turn 5, and Firebat managed to come back from it over a long period of time.
Yeah, he managed to make, just incremental advantages every single turn for 2 or 3 turns in a row, and then eventually turned it around. And then, he got the brick top decks a little bit from Lothar as well. I mean, it was a well-played game on both sides.
Alright, so now you have to ask yourself, do I want to play the Armor Smith? There's no reason not to unless you're afraid of coin Acolyte of Pain. By playing the Armor Smith here, you're representing you have the axe because you're not afraid of coin Acolyte of Pain.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of, he does have coin Acolyte of Pain to him, but he also has the Death Spite in his hand. It's really hard to pass up
coin
into Death Spite, in this matchup. Because if, like you've said, if you're the first one to get going with patrons, it is such a big deal. It's so hard to come back. And then he's even set up to have some really high value Death Spite turns over the next turn, because if he uses it here to kill an Acolyte of Pain, Lothar only gets 1 draw. Then he could play his own Acolyte of Pain next turn, kill the Armor Smith, get a armor and a card off of Acolyte of Pain, and then use Battle Rage to draw a ton of extra cards from there if he wants. So he's got a lot of really good setups here.
Alright, he's just going to play Battle Rage, it turns out, because he seems to want to get the card draw himself. That's interesting.
All right, maybe just valuing the coin a little bit more than we do, and those 2 draws were pretty good. Those are some pretty good cards in this matchup.
So executing the Acolyte of Pain denies your opponent the cards that he wants, and you're keeping the coin, which is, I think, what Kucha's plan is. We've seen him do something akin to this before, where he values the coin in this matchup a lot, and I think it has to do maybe with the fact that Emperor is such a strong card, and using the coin can almost give you that Emperor value on that last combo piece that wasn't in your hand at the moment of the Emperor play.
Now, I like this play, especially if you know you're going to draw Emperor or Harrison Jones for 2 reasons.
For sure.
You get to either coin out Harrison Jones, which is going to be amazing if Lothar were to Death Spite this turn, or you're the first one to get to Emperor. Both of those things are extremely important in this match, and so you just see him value the coin way higher than what we were talking about. It seems to be just a great play.
Yeah, now he's still looking for the Warzone Commander, of course. I mean, both players have Harrison and Emperor Thorsten, so both players feel like they're ahead. That's like the rule number one. You think, if I've got them, then I've got the edge. But since both players have it, it kind of evens out. And I think it's going to come down to whoever gets the Warzone Commander first with a Frothing or a Patron. More importantly, I think, a Patron.
Oh, absolutely. But, Kucha, is this the kind of hand that you want to Emperor with the drawing of a Grim Patron? You got to believe, it's going to be hard to pass up.
Yeah, but he's got that, you're giving away your Emperor, right? Because you're feeding it into Harrison, and
trading it for Harrison plus getting this hand discounted, is it really that bad? Because
maybe not. You're right.
Yeah, it makes your Warsong so much more deadly because it gives you a free Whirlwind and a 1-mana Unstable Ghoul along with a cheapened Grim Patron and a cheapened Frothing Berserker, and that's what you're really in the market for. Is you want any of those cards to be cheap. It doesn't matter really that Harrison is cheaper or that Acolyte of Pain is cheaper. Those are just extra fodder at this point.
Yeah, but Lothar's Emperor has no answer. I mean, if he makes the trade and he Emperors himself, sure he gets a very underwhelming Emperor, but Kucha can't kill it this turn. So it'll depend. I don't know if Lothar will want to do it. He does. All right, so he's gonna force Kucha to answer it. At the moment, it's not looking good.
Well, he's going to have some stress value. The amount of stress it's going to put on Kucha in this game is at least worth something. I mean, the guy's going to be. If you play this mirror match and the other player gets multiple triggers off of their Emperor Thorson, it's got to be something that's going to be bothering you quite a bit through this game. And so Kucha, as we said, doesn't have a way to answer this Emperor Thorson just yet. And Lothar seems very poised to be taking somewhat of an advantage here, even though his hand isn't amazing to take advantage of that.
There might be a good argument to be made for like double Acolyte Whirlwind, and then you try to find something. Yeah, you have 2 chances at execute. That's the thing, like the execute that Kucha used on turn 2 or 3 against the Acolyte.
It was very aggressive.
Yeah, it was a very aggressive like card draw denial because he valued the coin so much. But now that you see the Emperor fall down, how much was that coin really worth? Was it worth giving your entire opponent's hand like a completely discounted hand? Like everything is just discounted in that hand.
Yeah, not only that, now he's given up his 0 mana Whirlwind, so this makes it a little harder for him to combo off on some of the turns that he wants to. So he has to find another Whirlwind and has to spend mana on it. So this is putting stress on his deck and his game plan now as well. Lothar, he picked up a Frothing Berserker, so again, both these guys just looking for War Song Commander, it looks like.
Yeah, it's like the one card that both of these guys need to find. When you found Emperor Thorson, you're basically just waiting to find the combo card. Frothing Berserker number 2 for Kucha, still no... this War Song Commander is going to be the death of him if he doesn't find it. At least he's going to be able to cycle a little bit more. He's got the Slam, he's got the Cruel Task, he's got the Acolytes of Pain he can use.
Well, there's the War Song Commander. He finally found it now. He has an answer. He gets to answer Lothar's Emperor Thorson here now. If Lothar doesn't have a big turn next turn,
okay, I'm scared.
He's gonna set Death Spite. Yeah. If Lothar doesn't have a big turn here, Kucha is very poised to take this game.
Alright, let's see what Lothar does. He picks up his own War Song, so if Kucha goes all in on Patrons, he's dead.
Yeah, Lothar would be able to do the Frothing Berserker answer for, usually about 40 damage.
Yeah, that would probably just be straight up game if Kucha goes for a Patron play next turn. I mean, I see there's 1 Frothing and 3 Whirlwind effects.
If you're Lothar, do you just like armor up pass here?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It gives away your hand a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
A bit in the same way that it gave RDU's hand away in HPL when he fought against Kranich. I remember that. But do you really have a choice, right? Like, can Kucha really not go for the Patron play? I mean, you've got the Armorsmith now. I guess that could make you wait a little longer.
Yeah, I mean, if you go off with Armorsmith and Grim Patron, you do gain a ton of life. Because like that's actually the thing that's getting worried about right now. Is Kucha is down to 17. So if he gives Lothar extra time, that could be a problem. Lothar could actually just kill him without Kucha having a board.
Yeah, so he's going to go for the Inner Rage play. Not even going to use the Armorsmith because he's going to get about 2 armor from the AoE if he plays the Armorsmith, like 3 maybe. So it might not be worth it to him. Do you think he's going to play an Unstable Ghoul here though? Or is that not worth it?
I think armoring up and passing might be his idea here because maybe he's done the math that Lothar might not be able to kill him with a Frothing Berserker through here, depending on what is free. But you got to believe he's going to have enough damage here with multiple Unstable Ghouls.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine he wouldn't. I mean, with 3 Whirlwind effects in hand and an extra Inner Rage to deal a little bit more damage, that's definitely going to be game. He just has to not Inner Rage his Frothing. If he wants to play Double Ghoul, you don't Inner Rage the Frothing. And he can play his entire hand actually. Like everything can be played here. That's a lot of damage.
That's what happens when you let Emperor stay on the board for multiple turns.
Yeah, the early execute from Kucha. I have to wonder if he's starting to regret it right now.
Yeah, I mean this is way more than enough. Lothar can pretty much close his eyes and start putting cards into play here as long as he doesn't kill his own Frothing Berserker and then points it at Kucha's face. It's going to be way more than enough.
Yeah, you just smash everything, you queue up the actions, you don't even look at the count, you roll in at the end of the sequence, then you just push face.
I mean, this is almost lethal already.
Yeah.
I think this actually might be lethal already, because he gets to actually attack with the 3/1 Acolyte of Pain if he wants. Or did that one already attack?
Yeah, he already, he Inner Raged it, and he's going to attack now, I'm guessing. I mean, he just queued up actions, right? Like, there's no way he hasn't yet. Oh my god, this is well over lethal.
He's going for the just extra BM 30-something damage here.
Well, I think you're doing it for safety. You don't even do the math. Like, there's a point in Patron sometimes where you just look at the board, you're like, there's no way I don't have lethal. And you just throw all your cards in its correct sequence, and you let the animations run out, and then you're bound to get it.
Yeah, it's like there's no way this isn't enough damage. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh my god, Lothar. Is he going for the ghoul trade? Oh my goodness. This frothing berserker is completely insane.
How big is this guy going to be? It's going to be well over double his life total.
Like a 39 attack?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 38?
This is completely insane.
Jeez.
Just casual 39 damage, you know. Then again, we have to say one thing. You know, Kucha did feed him the minions to do that. If there's no pictures on the board, there's no reverse kill with the frothing. It's really hard to pull those off if there's no minions on the board. It happens sometimes, but it's more likely to happen against Patron because they have those minions on the board to replicate. Yeah,
now with Kucha being at 17 that turn, do you think he's safe to just armor up and then not really do anything and wait for his own chance to do something like that? Or is it just too dangerous to let Lothar, draw a lot of extra cards and have the chance to just kill him without you giving him minions?
I don't know. Maybe he felt so far ahead because he had Harrison. He didn't have Harrison, and sorry, too far behind because he didn't have Harrison nor Emperor in his hand, so he can't really contest it. And giving his opponent card draw might be like that extra win condition that he wanted to deny. But I thought the coin Death's Bite was acceptable, right?
Right.
Because he could have, drawn cards off his own Acolyte. We'll have to see how this game pans out. Kucha still has a chance to equalize with Lothar and maybe then move on to the second phase. If Lothar wins this, and it's going to be match point for him, and he's going to make it the group stage phase 2, guaranteed.
And you got to feel that, he's got to somewhat like his chances here. He's getting one of the matchups that, he doesn't hate. A lot of people say it's one of those things where it depends on what side you're on. The Druid players say they're slightly favored. The Patrons players say they're slightly favored in this matchup. But Druid, not a bad matchup against Grim Patron. We've seen it do pretty well in a lot of these matches. And all they have to do is get some damage in early. An early shade like you're going to see here. And then, you got to be scared of that combo the whole time. I mean,
I was going to say, the early shade is probably the instrumental part of the matchup. Just because you can let it sit there. The only time where they can actually kill it is very early, let's say with a double whirlwind turn, or when you're playing Emperor and they literally have no other answer and no looming kill on you. So they're then forced to trade away the shade at an inconvenient time. But for the most part, a shade that grows is like an extra 8 damage on your turn when you're going for combo.
If you're Lothar, what would you do this turn?
Wrathing the Acolyte sounds acceptable. I think I can tank that extra 1 damage, and I can always just keep Red down if need be next turn.
Yeah, I mean, like next turn you have a couple options. You can Keeper it. You can even develop a Piloted Shredder if you really want to start trying to get aggressive with damage. You could even Emperor depending on what you draw as well.
I mean, if you go for Wrath on the Acolyte, next turn you probably would either go Shredder Hero Power to kill the Armor Smith, like Innervate Hero Power to kill it. Otherwise, you're feeding him the Armor Smith. Like you're feeding him a kill, and that can't feel good. It looks like he's going to opt for the Silence, I guess, or maybe the Shredder Innervate Wrath. If Kucha doesn't find a way to deal damage to his own Acolyte.
Yeah, I mean, like Shredder Innervate Wrath against like a lot of things that Kucha are going to do this turn is actually pretty good. Wow, it's a pretty good draw for Kucha here. Probably the best in his deck.
I mean, it's helpful when you've got a Grim Patron set up. It's still missing the Inner Rage to really seal it, right? Like where you need to make sure that you have enough minions on the board that live through, say, a Keep of the Grove Wrath. That's kind of what you're looking for. How tempting is this for Lothar? I mean, I just love the Shredder Innervate Wrath. As much as I want to play the Emperor here, I have no combo pieces. I can't make like a huge... I mean, it's a huge discount, so...
This isn't one of the hands where you feel you really need to Emperor here.
Right.
Because, I mean, you're going to be able to play all these... you have stuff to do on turn 5, turn 6, and turn 7 with the way your hand is constructed now, not to mention what you're possibly going to draw. Plus, it gets you kind of far ahead. I mean, you're starting to pressure quite a bit here. Adding a 4/3, you have a 4/4 shade, and taking care of his card draw where they only get to 1, he's getting at least 1 off of it. You can deny him more than 1. That's a pretty big deal.
Well, I see an Innervate. What does that imply? He's going to go for the Emperor because he wants to go for the Shredder Wrath. I guess if he wants to, he can do it next turn. He's gonna use the shade to deny card draw. See, this is this makes a lot of sense, right? This makes sense because if you play Emperor, you're feeding him a Death's Bite value. However, if you kill a shade, he's not gonna get more Acolyte value. Oh man, and here come the patrons.
Yeah, he picked up the card you were talking about here in Enrage, and he's going to be able to take care of this Emperor Thorson if he wants to as well. And Shade is going to be contested by all the patrons that are going to be in play as well. Great turn here for Kucha.
I mean, it's still not too bad for Lothar, right? Because he can go Paladin, he can go, Keeper of the Grove into Wrath. That's going to take care of 2 of them. But how do you deal with that extra guy with 3 health over there? There's another one who's going to spawn another patron. No, man.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be leaving a 2/4 on board for this patron to just kind of run into if it wants to.
Yeah, you're forced to just sacrifice your entire board and feed it to the opponent. Now,
no, I was going to say this way. Yeah, this way he actually leaves just the 5/1. Yeah, this is way better.
Alright, Battle Rage for 2 cards and play the Acolyte, or play an Emperor Thorson as a power play and look at the Druid Scramble to swipe Hero Power it down.
No, you definitely Battle Rage here to get some extra cards. You want to get your hand to be as beefy and as good as possible. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you just Acolyte of Pain here as well, just to get some more cards going for his Emperor Thorson.
Right, makes a lot of sense. I think, like, just drawing as much as you can is definitely the right way to go. Alright, so he picks up a Wild Growth a little too late, but the Shade of Nact and Shredder turns are, like, together. They're pretty sweet, because the Acolyte of Pain can't kill either of them. And the Shredder just contests the Acolyte directly with only 1 card draw.
Now, is this a turn where you want the Emperor? I gotta believe just Fiery War Axe is starting to... Maybe Fiery War Axe Harrison Jones is just better.
I mean, getting to Harrison Jones against Druid, like, on the turn that you have nothing else to do, is just the perfect timing. If this is a big minion, it's going to be a problem. That is everything but a big minion. Lothar, I mean, I guess you don't mind, because it's a body for Savage War later, but that's not at all the minion you really were hoping for.
No, not at all. I mean, this is a rough spot for Lothar here. He's got 2 cards in his hand that aren't 3 cards in his hand that aren't really going to get it done here.
Lothar picks up, like, we saw him earlier with like 2 Wild Growths and Innervated and Darnassus Aspirant late game against the Patron Warrior. This is happening to him again. Nothing he does seems to go right as far as playing Druid combo deck. Oh man, poor Lothar.
Yeah, he like never draws it early, draws all of it late, and you know he turns 7. He's like, I have more mana. I mean, I don't know what to do with all of it, but
yeah. Well, that kind of sucks for him. So I'm not too sure how he's supposed to get out of this one. I mean, you can't force the nature on this board. It's just terrible, and you have like no lethal looming ever. You might play Darnassus Aspirant, but hey, you're feeding that Acolyte of Pain card draw, so maybe you just have to Hero Power and wait.
Yeah, I mean, if you force of nature here, you can clear his board, but then he gets to kill your Shade. I mean, there's no way, you know, you're just going to put 2 damage on the Acolyte of Pain. You're going to use your Shade to take care of it here if you're going to clear his board with Force of Nature, and it's like, I mean, is he going to Force of Nature and then just attack his face and kill Harrison Jones? That is something that might happen.
Yeah, I would see him push for 2 damage here, just because if he picks up, I guess, a second combo, it's going to be okay. But it's not looking good. It's not looking good for Lothar. His hand is very dry, and this is exactly the reason some people like Dog say they say that playing 2 Darnassus Aspirants is too much. You play 1 and 2 Wild Growth, that gives you 3 ramp cards, and that's more than enough to get them in the early game, and then you're never stuck with hands like these in the late game.
Yeah, we've been some of my friends and I have been talking about that a lot as well. That is one Darnassus Aspirant enough, and you know I think it might be. I'm gonna start playing with just the 3 ramp cards instead of the full 4, or do you cut a Wild Growth? You know, that's another thing to talk about. Sometimes is the 2/3 body good enough, you know, because of all these Paladin decks that are going around as well, and that's something to be, you know, think about going forward. You know, maybe you cut a Wild Growth. You know, is that blasphemy? You know,
people have done that. Day 1 of Darnassus Aspirant, people were actually cutting 2 Wild Growths and putting 2 Darnassus Aspirants. Then they were re-including 1 Wild Growth, and then some people ended up cutting the second Darnassus Aspirant and putting back the initial Wild Growth. Because guaranteeing the ramp is very good. I guess there's a really good argument to be made for, you know, we were talking about this, but playing 2 Aspirants and 2 Wild Growths if you have more 4-drops. Because that guarantees a little bit more value again.
Now, I don't hate this Emperor from Kucha. He's not playing it for the discount value. He's playing it as a 5/5 threat here that Lothar, you know, pretty much has to check. You can't let that sit around. Plus, Lothar's getting to gain a little bit of life off his light well here, but you have to do something about this 5/5 here. You know, it's going to take his Shade plus a Hero Power to get it done, unless he wants to use. I was going to say he might
second
use
Force. That's a good game if he does that. That's it. He lost. If he goes for this, there's no win condition left.
Yeah, he's going to have to win on the back of 5/5s now.
I don't think that's happening.
Yeah,
I mean, he could pick up like a crazy Ancient of War that doesn't get executed. From his perspective, of course, we know it will. Like, he could pick up Ancient of War, Ancient of Lore, Shredder sticks, nothing gets removed, and the Patron just blanks on every street. But it doesn't seem very likely.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think his road to victory here is if he has something like Ancient of War, is uprooting it. Maybe getting a 10/5 against a board where Kucha can't answer it, but how likely is that?
Yeah, now we're just gonna see Kucha play Patron, Unstable Ghoul, Whirlwind. That gives him a lot of value. If he picks up a Battle Rage off the top with the Acolyte of Pain, that's just gonna seal the game. But overall, there's a lot of cards that would make this a nightmare for Lothar. And Patron alone, you know, just 2 Patrons. If you've already sent the first wave of them out, what is he gonna do? Swipe? I don't think so. He's already used up a Keeper and a Wrath.
I mean, and you got the feeling that his hand is bad. I mean, he just Force of Nature on back-to-back turns to clear minions. Like, how good can his hand really be?
Well, looks like the Patron's there, and there's the Frothing waiting. Frothing's not quite a lethal at all just yet. Lothar still has a chance to get it done. You don't really want to go through that Ghoul, because you're feeding him more Patrons. You need to look for Keeper of the Grove, but how do you even find that? Do you play Darnassus Aspirant, Wild Growth for cards, see what happens, or is that feeding into the Ghoul?
I mean, I think at this point you just have to do something, and maybe Aspirant into Wild Growth is what you just have to do, get a card deeper into your deck. But it's like we said, you know, he's been put in positions this game to make really bad plays because he had to. He had no other plays to him, and his deck's just gonna let him down from here. He's not gonna have anything that's gonna get him back into this game.
Hey, would Swipe help?
Not
quite.
Not really. I mean, he's actually just waiting around to die now at this point.
Alright, well, let's see what Lothar ends up doing. At the end of the game, maybe there's a small chance Kucha blanks everywhere. I just don't see it happening. The deck is almost too well crafted to blank on, like, for like 5 cards in a row. And with 2 Force of Nature gone, how do you even burst your opponent down?
Yeah, I mean, he's just gonna cycle through his whole deck here. He's gonna see multiple cards a turn. You know, he can even get a card off his Acolyte of Pain here if he wants, maybe even 2. You know, if he runs his Ghoul into something, makes more Patrons.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It even feels like he almost can't play these turns incorrectly. There's almost like nothing you can do that's really bad.
Even if you mess it up, it's still good.
Yeah, I mean,
even if it's not optimal, it's still gonna win.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he takes care of the Savage Combatant and doesn't leave himself dead to that, and then, you know, picks off the Daenerys Aspirant, like, you know, leaves him with just the Shade. Like, maybe Lothar tries to get an OTK with the Shade, but is that really a possible thing? I mean, there's gonna be so much power on this board.
Yeah, it doesn't seem likely the Shade is going to be a win condition on its own without like a crazy double Savage War Druid of the Claw kind of play. And like, how do you really pull that off, realistically?
He's going to draw even more cards. Like,
yeah, it could have been Battle Rage and it could have been worse, but I mean, No Mission Adventure's fine. Oh, in case I need to refill, you know? If I ever need a refill.
Yeah, for the man who has everything, here's another Whirlwind.
Yeah.
He's even got double Execute, so he can kill this Ancient of War very easily from Lothar. You know, Lothar gets to 5/10 here, and it looks great on this board, but it's not going to be enough. These Executes are going to be able to get through this.
Yeah, Lothar has to be assuming that Kucha's holding on to an Execute. I mean, there's a few cards he's been playing, like he's been holding on to and hasn't played yet. I mean, you can try to kill stuff.
I mean, yeah, I mean, Lothar's going to fight. I mean, he's not just going to give up here. I mean, he's not dead yet, you know?
Yeah, any information I might be able to get could be useful for the future, but I don't foresee a way to come back in. What's up?
Kucha could just not have his Executes, you know?
Yeah,
this
like,
fight-in could just be blanking.
It would be hard to believe, considering he would have played any other card that's not an Execute. If he'd been holding it. Like, he would have played a weapon, he would have played just about everything.
I'm just trying to get it from Lothar's perspective of, you know, there's a chance. Yeah, he's
going
to push for damage here, yeah.
Is there hope?
Yeah, he's going to push for damage here. I actually like that, because if there is no Execute, then this is the correct play. This is how Lothar wins this game. Wow, he can just draw a million cards if he wants to.
Yeah, he might just do it, because why not? I mean, there's no drawback to it. I mean, maybe you push lethal a little earlier because you find the War Song by playing this. Yeah. Ah, there she is. Hello. That should do it, right?
Yeah, he's going to execute both of Lothar's minions, which might just get a concession anyway.
Yeah.
You know, this might just be a way to get Lothar to concede.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe he just holds off from here, because there's no way Kucha can lose. He's seen both of the Force of Natures. So there's no out from this spot. So he's just going to hold on stuff just in case. And yeah, Lothar knows that he has no actual way to win this game anymore.
Lothar surrenders and the might of the Patron takes over. So it's going to come down to Druid versus Hunter, if I'm not mistaken, right? Which we've talked about a bit earlier, where we still don't know if the mid-range Hunter with the Beast variant is very good against Druid. I mean, it's running Flare. It's also, at least the older version used to tech more against aggro, but this one, the Kucha's, like, he's got 2 freezing traps in there, and that definitely will help against Druid.
Yeah, it depends on how he matches up here, like turn by turn. There are chances that Lothar in turn 5 could be playing a 6-drop or a 7-drop, or just something like Druid of the Claw. Well, Kucha might be playing Ram Wrangler and not getting an extra beast from it here because he's the beast-centric version. But also, I mean, he's got big plays as well, and he can scale into them and keep Lothar on the back foot by dealing a lot of damage. So we'll see, if Lothar aggressively mulligans into a hand that deals with aggressive draws out of Kucha's deck. We saw that happen where a Druid deck earlier had the Dream hand against an aggressive Hunter deck, and it just wasn't good enough because Kucha's draw was slow and fat. He had like all of his Savannah High mains, all of his big drops, and then one from there. So it's going to be interesting to see if that kind of thing happens again, because Lothar is going to probably have to mulligan as if he's playing against an aggressive deck, because, I mean, that's what you always think of when you're against Hunter, right? That they're just going to beat you down and kill you with their hero power here. And we're going to have this game up in just a second. Whoever wins this one is going to move on to the next stage. Whoever loses this one is going to be eliminated. So a lot of pressure on this game 5 between these two guys.
Yeah, it's only like it's group stage 2, right? They've both played 3 matches today. They basically are the players playing last, and they've done a lot of work. And it can get a little exhausting, I guess, when you play so many best of 5s in the same day, just waiting your turn and then getting the decks in. Especially if you spotted a weakness in one of your decks, you just wish you could correct it, but it's too late. Decks already submitted, so yeah, be a little difficult. So Lothar with the Druid. I'm still curious to know if he's going to be able to beat the Hunter. It seems to boil down to whether or not you get that crazy anti-aggro tool, the Innervate, Wrath, Keeper of the Grove against the Hunter.
Yeah, and if the same thing happens that happened last time that this matchup happened, where Kucha just had, he faced off against that hand from a Druid, but he had the hand that countered it. He had a bunch of 4 and 5 and 6 drops and got to go way over the top of it. But yeah, this is the aggressive draw out of Kucha's deck here.
Yep, but there's a Wild Growth in Lothar's hand, so that's already a good start. I can't imagine he'd ever skip that.
Yeah, it's confirming that he's just a good Druid player. He has a Wild Growth in his open hand. I mean,
yeah, those Wild Growths. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he seems like he's a good Druid player to me. Why wouldn't he have a Wild Growth?
It's the Fiery War Axe skill test. Do you top deck it in every single starting hand? Yeah, I guess if you're Fibonacci, you do. I don't think I've ever seen him not have it.
Exactly. Fibonacci. Now, if you're Lothar, do you just mulligan the whole hand except for Wild Growth?
I probably would. I mean, there's really no reason to keep anything else. You need Keeper of the Grove, you want Wrath, you probably are even looking for Darnassus Aspirant, for hell's sake. Like, the body that it's got is good enough. If he has a double Wild Growth start, this might just be a little difficult to recover from. Yeah, this is a great hand, I think, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he can... Do you coin the Wild Growth here?
I'd play the Aspirant.
Yeah, just in case they have a removal spell or, like, something you can get out of it. Like, anything they give you for this card, I think you're okay with it, right? Since you have the Wild Growth behind it.
Well, the reason is because your turn 3 is otherwise dead. If I had a Shade, I would maybe go for Wild Growth. Just because that way I avoid any kind of crazy shenanigans where he kills the Darnassus, then I turn 2 go for Wild Growth, and then my turn 4 is awkward because I play Shade off curve. But if I'm playing Darnassus Aspirant on the coin here, it's such a good control tool, and I usually get the curve I want. So no Shade really enables this play to shine.
Yeah, I mean, Lothar's got the kind of hand that can keep up with this Hunter deck, this like mid-range Beast Hunter deck. We gotta figure out a good name.
Oh, that's rough. Oof. 2 mana draw card. It's a beast. Kucha with an amazing Joust right there. That is really, really tough, because one of the weaknesses of Hunter is actually that it's got... it struggles a bit to draw cards, right? Like, that's one of the biggest weaknesses it's got. There's no more card engine, and that King's Elk, when it draws a card in a mid-range deck, you're in for a lot of trouble.
I know there's people out there yelling, do we need to give Hunter card draw?
Right.
Come on. It's already so oppressive and aggressive as it is. Let's not give them card draw. Come on. But yeah, I think this card is pretty fair.
I think it's fair because you don't win ties. If Joust actually won ties, this card would be way over the top.
Yeah,
it's already good.
Sense too. Yeah. When you think about 2 guys jousting, the only way you win is if you knock the other dude off his horse, right?
What they should have done
if you both just hit each other or like nothing happens. Yeah.
So imagine this joust mechanic where instead the minions actually kill each other. So they both joust from your deck, but whichever loses is actually thrown out of the deck. So you could mill people with a joust deck that's like super high curve. Wouldn't that just be like the coolest thing?
Just joust mill, like you just name this thing like 17 words. Like, like joust mill fatigue.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I'd play that.
Yeah, that would be a deck you would like. I'm sure you'd fit a crazed alchemist in there somewhere and have some crazy cards.
Yo, you know Hearthstone's not about the hunter decks. It's all about the priest decks. Just play the thought steals and the mind games and you're good to go. So Lothar has got the Keeper of the Grove here. It's not an awful play. The problem is if you silence this, you're open to a Houndmaster, and then your silence feels wasted in many ways, and then Druid of the Claw doesn't feel like a good follow-up.
Yeah, if you don't do this turn though, like what do you do? Like,
I'd pop it. If I do anything here, I would probably pop it.
Yeah,
silencing it feels a little weird. Yeah, alright, so he does end up popping the Spider. That's definitely a line of play. The only line of play. Well,
yeah, let's say he gets around the Houndmaster as well too.
Yep, just split second away from getting punished for maybe silencing it. I think it's still gonna work out for Kucha though. I mean, you've got the Powder Shredder. What do you care, right?
Yeah, I mean, and he's got a decent 5-drop as well too. He has like a Lothar plus like. You know,
he's got a 7-drop too with River Croc into Ram Wrangler.
Right.
He's curving like a god right now.
Yeah, he's got the 5, 6, 7, and he can mix in some other stuff as well. He even picks up the flare here that we haven't seen do too much. That's going to be 2-mana draw card probably on like turn 9 if we get there.
Yeah, it's going to be like a wild growth basically.
I mean, if Lothar can just sneak in some damage here and keep himself alive, he already has combo in his hand and an Ancient of Lore, so.
Yeah, the trade from the Keeper of the Grove here on the 1/1 enables him not to get traded into the bear, which forces Kucha to have either a weapon or a mix of extra damage, whether he plays Abusive Sergeant or not. And playing Lothar here, even though, I mean, you're semi-happy to do it, it's still a little awkward, right? Because it's really not the kill you wanted to get on that Druid of the Claw.
But it is going to be great against Lothar's hand. Lothar is going to have just hero power and nothing else this turn. Kucha's got to have like at least a fist pump to that, right? That's got to be one of the better, at least for Lothar's sake, he has something that comes out of the Shredder that he can take care of with this hero power. That would have been a nightmare.
Lothar still has 2 innervates left, right? So double combo based on the hand that he's got. He's got the Ancient of Lore to play next turn. The Lothar is hitting a brick wall because nothing can kill that Druid of the Claw unless he kill commands it, and I just don't see that coming out. High main looks so much more consistent because you can go, you know, high main into River Croc, Ram Wrangler. Never mind, I'm just flat out wrong. He's gonna play the River Croc afterwards to enable the Ram Wrangler next turn into a flare possibly, or maybe even Houndmaster.
Yeah, maybe Ram Wrangler into hero power, Houndmaster into hero power. He's just trying to get some board control. Great.
Sick top deck by Lothar. He's gonna be able to kill the River Croc and contest the Lothar. It couldn't have gotten better. I mean, Wrath was good, but it didn't put anything on the board. So
yeah, this contests Lothar. I mean, it's hard for me to pass up a Savannah high main, but I see what Kucha is thinking here. You know, he's got some. This gives him more options playing the game this way. He's also got the turn 7, like we talked about. He's got the beast on 2, and let's see if he gets another King Crush here.
Oh man, let's see what it is this time. Maybe just don't toss board to compensate. Oh my goodness. That is such a rough outcome for Lothar. Yeah, look at his face.
Oh, Nixia, I think is the name of it? No, that's the dragon now.
Maexina, yeah.
Maexia,
whoa, double combo for Lothar. 2 turns and he wins.
Yeah, I mean, he can just 9 mana, just 28, yeah.
He's 1 turn off of doing it.
Dude, this card is so good against Druid, by the way. It survives like combat with almost every minion against theirs and still just continues to pick it off. Like, it kills an Ancient of War straight through for just dealing 2 damage of it, and then comes around for more in the next round.
This card is, like, Ram Wrangler is a bit over-the-top RNG, I feel. I don't know, like, after the King Crush to the Max, now, like, consider me jaded, but this is really just deciding a game. Anyway. It's kind of weird. It feels weird to me, but maybe overall it averages out often enough in terms. It's just like in the individual matches, it's pretty crushing. No pun intended, but
I was gonna say I see what you did there. With the,
I didn't mean it that way, but it kind of came out with the pun. So the 5/5 goes down to a 2/8. which stays alive, and then the high main comes out with a good hero power curve. Would you ever consider flaring here, or are you setting up for
I don't think
anyway?
You're never flaring unless you have 4 extra mana. He's going to hero power every turn for the remainder of the game, and he's going to be able to Houndmaster here to play around something like the second combo, because Lothar might realize this is the only way I can win this game from here.
Yeah, just comboing twice in a row.
Yeah,
Got it.
it's 14 him here and then 14 him there, and then Kucha just knows he won the game here. I think once he sees this, he knows that the game is his.
Yeah, he doesn't have lethal immediately. I mean, I think Leok would come. No, Leok would do it. I think because you could go Leok, Houndmaster. I mean, Huffer would also do it. You could just go Animal Companion, Houndmaster, Hero Power.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Is that lethal? That's 5, 6, 7, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19. Yeah, he's got 19 with Eagle Horn Bow, I think.
Yeah.
Eagle Horn Bow, Hero Power, Houndmaster is actually just game, I'm pretty sure.
Well, Kucha is going to take this one over Lothar.
And this deck has looked pretty good on camera today from Kucha. You want to see decks like this come up a little more, and you might be getting your wish.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to see a Beast Hunter, right? Like I mentioned this 25 times today, and I'm gonna get a little redundant, but I love Beast Hunter. It's an archetype that seemed to be pushed by Blizzard design-wise and flavor-wise, but it never quite makes it to the actual metagame, because people start playing like just high-value cards, and they play like Mad Scientist. So it's mostly about the high-value cards more so than the actual beast. So Kucha is gonna be moving on. After losing the Firebat, he's still gonna make it to Phase 2. Lothar went through an entire day. He won the first game and then lost the second one and then lost the third one. So a lot of games were played, but ultimately he's not gonna make it. So that makes it, that seals it up for Group C. We know who's gonna be moving on: Firebat and Kucha. So that's a lot of underdogs. It feels going more like forward.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the big names have gotten eliminated here very early, except you gotta believe. I mean, you gotta believe Firebat. He's kind of a big name.
Yeah, well, I mean, not today, but over the past.
No,
the
of
past
course. Yeah.
So StarLadder, we'll have the next day. Group D will be coming up. We'll have four players playing. We have 5 matches, same exact format, with the first match, second match with winners match, losers match, the same way it happened today. We'll have Orange Stanudachi. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, sir, but I have never heard this. I don't know the player personally. It's not a player that I've heard about before. And obviously Doug and Forsen, you probably know them by now. I think everybody here will recognize them.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you had to say that name and I didn't, because I had no idea how to pronounce that name. But yeah, Orange, very excited to see him play. Good personal friend of mine. I've got of dogs. I'm sorry.
No, nothing. You went robot on me.
Oh yeah, the feed's getting a little slow. Yeah, I got to cast 15 matches of dogs in HPL, and I got to say this. I mean, everybody knows he's good, but I think he's just better than everybody thinks. I mean, that guy, unbelievable player. Getting to watch him game after game, and what a year he's having as well. Yeah,
I'm hoping he brings a rogue deck. I mean, he's going to be submitting the decks, of course. I think they might have already been submitted at this stage, but I really want to see rogue. Right, we saw Firebat bring rogue, and that was really cool to see him play. And Dog is also in the camp of he's a rogue believer. He just thinks the class works well. He plays it super well. He thinks it's consistent. He can make it work, even though it didn't get any new tools with the expansion. He's still super comfortable with the older list.